Good morning. I'm Gary DeWaal, and this is Bridging the Weeks for June 27th to July 8th, and today is July 11th, 2016. Michael Coscia, the first trader convicted of spoofing under new federal provisions of law, now awaits sentencing following a request for a tough sentence by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Chicago and for leniency by Mr. Coscia's counsel. Meanwhile, a broker-dealer agreed to pay $6 million to resolve charges by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority related to alleged filing of thousands of deficient blue sheets over a 7-year period, while the Securities and Exchange Commission proposed that investment advisors adopt formal business continuity transition plans to guard against material disruptions. I just returned from some fun hiking at Acadia National Park in Maine, so I have a bit of catching up to do. So I don't fall too far behind, let's get started. The United States Attorney's Office in Chicago requested last week that the judge presiding over the criminal trial of Michael Coscia impose the maximum sentence recommended by applicable guidelines against Mr. Coscia of between 70 and 87 months in prison, while Mr. Coscia's counsel argued for a lesser term of between no more than 4 to 10 months. Last November, you will recall that Mr. Coscia was convicted of 6 counts of commodities fraud and 6 counts of spoofing in connection with his trading activities on CME Group exchanges and ICE Futures Europe from August to October 2011, following a 7-day trial and approximately 1 hour of jury deliberation. In making this recommendation, the government dismissed arguments made on behalf of Mr. Coscia that he should be sentenced to a shorter term. Mr. Coscia's counsel had argued that a lesser sentence was warranted because at the time of his reported breaches, the text of the relevant law prohibiting spoofing did not provide any, quote, reasonable guidance for identifying or avoiding prohibited conduct, end of quote. The nature of his trading was not unusual compared to other traders, and he already has sustained significant punishment for his offenses through substantial fines, disgorgement of profits, and a 1-year trading suspension on any CME Group exchange. The government urged the presiding judge to reject Mr. Coscia's arguments, noting that, quote, this court now has the opportunity to send a message loud and clear that our financial markets operate on principles of honesty and transparency and do not allow a select few traders to profit in the trading markets through illegal bait-and-switch schemes at the expense of other traders, end of quote. At the end of June, the Securities and Exchange Commission proposed a new rule requiring investment advisors to adopt and put in place written business continuity and transition plans designed to deal with a quote-unquote significant disruption in such entities' operations. These plans would not be one-size-fits-all, but rather be risk-based depending on the IA's operations. Under the SEC's proposed rule, business continuity and transition plans would address the maintenance of, quote, critical operations and systems and the protection, backup, and recovery of data, including client records, end of quote, backup physical locations, communications with clients, employees, regulators, and service providers, evaluation of critical third-party service providers, and a transition plan that contemplates the termination of the investment advisor's business designed to safeguard, transfer, and or distribute client assets during transition. According to the SEC, quote, proper planning and preparation for possible distress and other significant disruptions in an advisor's operations is essential so that if an entity has to exit the market, it can do so in an orderly manner with minimal or no impact to its clients, end of quote. Comments on the SEC proposal will be accepted through September 6. Deutsche Bank Securities agreed to pay a fine of $6 million to resolve charges brought by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority that it filed, quote-unquote, thousands of deficient blue sheets with it and the Securities and Exchange Commission from 2008 through 2015. You will recall that blue sheets refer to trade data submitted by certain regulated entities, including broker-dealers, to the SEC and FINRA in an automated form in response to requests by the regulatory bodies in connection with their investigations typically of equity market activity. According to FINRA, during the relevant time, Deutsche Bank experienced multiple problems that sometimes caused incorrect information to be included on blue sheets, omitted required transactions, duplicated some transactions, and did not include order execution times. FINRA said these errors were attributable to, quote-unquote, significant failures within the firm's blue sheet system, quote, including programming errors in system logic and the firm's failure to implement enhancements in response to new regulatory reporting requirements, end of quote. To resolve this matter, Deutsche Bank also agreed to retain an independent consultant to help it review and make recommendations regarding its policies, procedures, and systems dealing with blue sheets. Barclays Banks plc settled charges brought by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission that, from March 1, 2013 through October 29, 2014, it failed to submit accurate large trader reports of physical commodity swap positions as required by applicable law and CFTC regulations by agreeing to pay a fine of $560,000 US. In general, the CFTC requires routine position reporting and record keeping by clearing organizations, clearing members, and swap dealers for any principal or counterparty accounts that contain swap or swaptions pertaining to 46 physical commodities that equal or exceed a designated threshold. The CFTC claimed that, during the relevant time, Barclays submitted large trader reports to it that included, quote, inaccurate position information caused by missing or inaccurate prices in crude oil, natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, and agricultural products. The CFTC said that some of the incorrect information came from third-party vendors. In resolving this matter with Barclays, the CFTC acknowledged that, during the relevant period, the firm communicated with staff regarding its issues and fixed them, quote, as necessary to comply with its LTR reporting requirements, end of quote. And finally, the House Committee on Agriculture will be holding a public hearing on July 13th, that's this Wednesday, to examine regulation automated trading proposed by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission in November 2015. These new CFTC rules, if adopted, would potentially impose many new obligations on certain CFTC registrants and new registrants that use algorithmic trading systems to trade futures, options, or swaps on designated contract markets. There is no published agenda at this time for the hearing. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Bridging the Weeks. As always, there is more information in each article and more articles on the article version of Bridging the Week on the website. Check it out. I'm Gary DeWaal. Have a great week, and until next week, ciao.